If you're looking for investment advice, you'll often hear the same thing: just invest in index funds. Even Warren Buffett publicly told his wife to put his inheritance into index funds when he dies. It's become so universally accepted that questioning it almost feels irresponsible. But that raises a real question. Is investing in index funds actually the best strategy for the average investor? This is Moneypedia, making money make sense. An index fund is a fund that tracks a market index: the S&P 500, the total stock market, international stocks, bonds. Whatever the index does, the fund tries to replicate. Index funds are passive by design. There's no individual stock picking, no predictions about which companies will do well or poorly, and no trying to time when to buy or sell. You pick the fund, put money in regularly, let it sit. If the S&P 500 goes up 10% a year, your fund also goes up 10%. If it drops by 20%, your fund drops by 20%. You get what the market gives you, minus some small fees. Index funds don't try to win. They try to avoid losing. Now that sounds boring, but boring is the entire point. And that distinction matters more than most people realize, because it explains why they exist in the first place. Index funds were first launched in 1976 by John Bogle, the founder of Vanguard. At the time, Wall Street laughed at the idea. Why would anyone settle for average returns when you could hire a professional to beat the market? But Bogle believed most investors were losing money trying to outsmart the market, and that the simplest solution was just to own all of it at the lowest possible cost. It took decades, but eventually the data proved him right. Index funds weren't created to make people rich quickly. They were created to stop people from making costly mistakes. Most investors underperform the market. They overpay for hot stocks and panic sell during crashes. They pay too much in fees to fund managers who promise to beat the market and then don't. According to a study by Dalbar, the average investor earned just 3.6% annually over a 30-year period ending in 2023, while the S&P 500 returned 9.8% annually over the same timeframe. Someone who invested $50,000 at S&P 500 returns would have ended up with $800,000, whereas the average investor picking their own stocks ended up with just $150,000 from the same starting point. Active fund managers don't do much better. According to S&P Dow Jones Indices, over 90% of actively managed funds failed to beat their benchmark index over a 15-year period after retiring for fees, which means paying for someone to pick stocks for you usually makes your returns worse, not better. Index funds automatically rebalance as companies enter and exit the index. If a company gets added to S&P 500, the fund buys it. If a company gets removed, the fund sells it. An active manager doesn't need to make those decisions. Because it's such a passive way to invest, the cost for holding them is very low as well, often in the 0.05 to 0.2% range, whereas actively managed funds typically charge 0.75% or higher. So it sounds small, but these fees compound over decades. If an actively managed fund charges 1% per year and an index charges 0.1% per year, that 0.9% difference matters. According to Vanguard, on a $100,000 investment over 30 years at 7% annual returns, that fee difference costs you over $70,000. And that's just the difference in fees that you pay to the manager. If you take into account the missing compound growth, then the true cost at 7% annual returns is actually $170,000. That's actual money that you don't get to spend in retirement because it went to fund managers instead. Actively managed funds also create more tax liability. Fund managers frequently buy and sell stocks in a portfolio, which generates capital gains that gets passed on to investors. Index funds rarely trade, so they generate fewer taxable events. In a taxable account, that tax difference could cost you thousands more over the years. Index funds solve a behavior problem. They remove the temptation to make bad decisions because there are no decisions to make. You can't panic sell individual stocks if you don't own individual stocks. You can't chase hot trends if your fund automatically owns everything. The entire point of index funds is to protect investors from themselves, which means they're built on a specific set of assumptions about what you know and what you're willing to do. Index funds optimize for simplicity, with low fees and consistency with minimal effort. That means no insider information, no advanced financial analysis skills, no hours spent researching investments. It means a long time horizon, and patience, and a desire for investing to stay boring. If those assumptions are true, index funds work extremely well. Index funds are also set up for people who don't want to think about them constantly. You're not monitoring earnings reports or watching market news every day, or adjusting your portfolio based on what some analyst said on financial television. Index funds assume the market will go up over time, even though it will have bad years. That assumption has held true over a century. The S&P 500 has had negative years, but over any 20-year period in history, it has delivered positive returns. Index funds bet on that trend continuing. But does this mean index funds are the best investment? The best way to answer that is to look at the alternatives. Stock picking concentrates risk. You're betting that the companies that you choose will do better than a market average. If you're right, you can make significantly more money than with an index fund. But if you're wrong, you can also lose a lot. The truth is, only a small number of stocks drive most market returns. According to research by Hendrik Dessenbinder at Arizona State University, updated through December 2024, just 4% of publicly traded stocks accounted for all of the net wealth creation in US markets since 1926. The other 96% collectively matched the return of treasury bills. Most individual stocks underperform the market. Only a small handful of breakout stars drive your returns. You need to identify the winners ahead of time and hold them through volatility without panic selling. And you never know which company will fail. Sears was once the largest retailer in America with a market cap of $23 billion and trading at $144 per share at its peak in April of 2007. It was a household name with over 3,500 stores across the country. If you had invested $10,000 in Sears stock at that peak, by the time you filed for bankruptcy in October of 2018, that investment was only worth $21. So you lost 99.9% betting on what looked like an unstoppable retail giant. But if you owned the S&P 500 during that time period, you wouldn't have lost anything because Sears only represented about 0.15% of the total index. When Sears started declining, the index automatically reduced its weight and eventually removed it, replacing it with companies that were actually growing. So your S&P 500 fund went up 150% during the same period that Sears went to zero. The S&P 500 probably won't double in a single year like some hot stocks might, but it also won't go to zero like Sears did because it's not betting on a single company. Another alternative investment strategy is day trading, but doing that strategy consistently assumes you can accurately predict short-term price movements on a stock. It requires speed and discipline and constant attention. But is it great for the average investor? Probably not. A study published in Review of Financial Studies found that only 1% of day traders consistently earned profits after accounting for fees and taxes. The other 99% either broke even or lost money. Day trading requires monitoring markets during trading hours, making quick decisions under pressure, and dealing with the psychological stress of watching your money move up and down constantly. It's a full-time job that pays less than minimum wage for most people who try it. Buying real estate can be a great investing strategy, but it requires a lot of work. You need a decent amount of starting capital for down payments and closing costs, and you'll need to deal with tenants, repairs, and keeping track of all of your bills. It can generate cash flows through rent and appreciate in value over time, but it's illiquid, which means you can't get your money out of it very quickly. It takes about 30 days to buy or sell a home, and you can't just sell a fraction of your house if you want some spare change. The typical real estate investment appreciates around 3 to 4% annually, and that's barely ahead of inflation. So you'll typically need to use leverage to get better returns. People who do well spend a lot of time finding great deals and have significant capital to weather bad tenants and expensive repairs. Cryptocurrency as an investment was amazing for those who got in early, but it's incredibly volatile. Bitcoin hit its peak in October of 2025 at $126,000, but as of this recording, it's worth less than $70,000. Another downside is that if your accounts get compromised through a hack or if you lose your private keys, you could lose everything with no way of getting it back. So other methods of investing can be lucrative, but they require more time, skill, or money, and the average investor doesn't perform as well with them. Index funds work best for people who want investing to be boring and don't want to actively manage anything. If you're comfortable with strong, average results and value consistency or trying to beat the market, it makes sense. Do you have decades until retirement with no interest in learning about individual companies? Index funds work. Do you have a high income with limited time and you'd rather focus on your career? Then they make sense. Try picking stocks and realize that the stress wasn't worth it? Index funds solves that. Know you'll panic during crashes or chase rallies? They remove the ability to act on those emotions. They also work well for people who understand their own limitations. If you're honest about not having time to research individual stocks or not having expertise in financial analysis, index funds give you a way to participate in market growth without pretending to be something you're not. For the majority of investors, index funds are the best strategy because they don't require specialized knowledge, constant attention, or high tolerance for risk. So are index funds the best strategy for the average investor? Yes, but not because they're optimal, and not because they'll make you rich faster than other strategies, but because they're forgiving. Index funds aren't designed to make you rich fast. They're designed to make it hard for you to fail. Other strategies can outperform. Stock picking can generate higher returns if you're good at it. Real estate can build wealth faster if you're willing to do the work. Active trading can make money if you have the skill and discipline. But those strategies require time, knowledge, emotional control, risk tolerance that not everyone has or wants to develop. Index funds became the default because they work without constant attention and they protect investors from their own mistakes and let people focus on earning income instead of managing their investments. So that's what index funds do. They won't make you the richest person the fastest, but you'll know it'll make it very hard for you to end up with nothing. You know the strategy works. So the next step is learning how to actually buy them. I personally use M1 Finance to buy my index funds because they let you automate index fund investing with zero commissions. Check out the link in the description to get started. Index funds are real investments, but there's another category of assets being sold as investments that don't work the same way. Pokemon cards, sneakers, sealed video games. They're being marketed as legitimate ways to build wealth, and the pitch sounds really good. Buy something cool, keep it sealed, and in 10 years, you're sitting on a fortune. But does it actually make you richer over time? Check out my next video to find out why collectibles might not be the investment you think they are. This is Moneypedia, making money make sense.